Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube Just Daf It. Today we're doing Kesubos Daf It, number 89. A great share for you today. We're going to talk about practically collecting the Kesuba. One wants to collect the Kesuba. If she gets divorced, maybe she can collect her Kesuba by just producing the Gerushin, the get. If she doesn't have a Kesuba, what if she has the Kesuba but she doesn't have a get? And the husband says, I already paid you your Kesuba. So, let's talk about this. Mishnah, the bottom of Peichadam and Beis, starts off the last line. Let's see a get of animal ksuba. She produces a get, but she says, I don't have a ksuba. We'll talk about some places they don't write. The minhag was not to write a ksuba in every place. Our minhag is to write a ksuba. Used to be some places don't have the minhag to write a ksuba because the ksuba is guaranteed. The Manu Masayim is guaranteed. Go back Suvasa, the top of Peitam and Aleph, go back Suvasa. She's allowed to collect the Mishnah rule, she's allowed to collect her Ksuba, she's with the get. Ksuba any get, she uses a Ksuba. She says I was divorced and I have a Ksuba. He Omeres, now the husband is there. He Omeres Avad Giti. The husband wants to say, where's the get? She says, I lost my get. Omer Avad Shovri. And he says, I lost my receipt, right? When I paid up, I already paid the Ksuba once, right? And she gave me a receipt, right? Now she still retains the ksuba. Talk about the Mishnah of Machlokas early on in the Masechta whether you write a receipt. This Mishnah is assuming that you do write a receipt. Similarly, just had the idea of pruzbal before the end of Shemitah year. Shemitah just ended here. You're supposed to write a pruzbal before the end of the Shemitah year so you can collect your chov alone. Otherwise, the Shemitah year technically cancels the loan in a certain respect. If you want to find it exactly what it does to the loan, see my shiurim at the end of Masechtas Shvius. We're given the Mishnah Yomi shiurim. So he says he has the loan document, but the guy says, "Wait a second, where's the pruzba? How do I know that Shvius, right? Shvius passed since the loan was given out, and now he wants to collect it after the 7th year ended, the beginning of the 8th year. He doesn't have pruzba. Already lo yifru. Tanakama rules can't collect." Right? You don't have the pruzbal. You don't have the get. You can't collect. When it became dangerous to hold on to Jewish documents, like a get was a Jewish document, pruzbal is a Jewish document, so they wouldn't write these things. So therefore, or they would write it and it would easily hide it somewhere where they wouldn't remember where it was. So it allowed them, made a takana, Rosh Hashanah says, in these cases, in dangerous times, to be able to rely on a rov or a chazaka and be able to collect the ksuva, to collect your loan without the pruzbal and without the get. The Gemara says, Shema mina kosin shover. It sounds from a Mishnah. You write a receipt. Machlokas, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, whether you should write a shover or not. Writing a receipt, meaning I have a loan, someone owes you money, and you have a shtar, you have a loan document, and you collect the money, right? Do you give him the loan document, or you retain the loan document, and he just writes, or you write a receipt for him that he collected? So it sounds like a Mishnah, Kosin Shover. We're taking a side. The end Kosin Shover, right? In the first case, she collects their get. Now, she might have a ksuba, so it must be he gets a receipt, the husband, that he paid off the ksuba. Otherwise, she'll take it. She says, I don't have the ksuba. She's really hiding the ksuba. She'll come to the basin or to a different basin and she'll collect her ksuba. Rav says, no, we're talking about a place where they don't normally write a ksuba, so therefore there's no likelihood, there's not a great likelihood that she has a ksuba. And maybe there's a miyah, even in a place, our Mishnah we talk about even in a place there is ksuba. The Shmuel Kosvin Shover. So according to Shmuel, you're forced to say that you must hold it. You write a shover, you write a receipt. Amar Ravana, Laziti B'Farshal, they made the Amar Shmuel. B'Makom Shen Kosvin, in a place where they don't write a ksuba, Amar Kasafti, and he says, I went against the public minhag, and I wrote a ksuba for my wife. All of Lahavi Raya. He has to bring a proof, right, that there's a ksuba, and that she shouldn't be able to collect with her get, because there's a ksuba, she might take the ksuba out and collect the second time. Makom Shen Kosvin, in a place where they normally write a ksuba, Amra, she says, lo kosovli, I don't have a ksuba, I want to collect with my get, there's no ksuba to collect with. Alel lahavi raya, the burden of proof is upon her. The Af Rav Haderbe, even Rav went back from his initial opinion. Amar Rav, he didn't say our Mishnah is only talking about a place where they don't write a ksuba. It doesn't matter whether they write ksubas or not write ksubas. Our Mishnah makes sense as follows: Get go ikar ksuba. When it says she collects with the get, she doesn't collect the entire ksuba. If the ksuba was for $1,000, right? It was only supposed to be $200, $100. Pula or bula was $100, and an extra $800 was added to Tosefes ksuba. Right? He added on extra money. She only collects the basic 200 or 100. Ksuba gove Tosefes. If she produces a ksuva, which is the second half of the Mishnah, we'll explain this soon. She's not gove the mana masayim, she's gove the Tosefes. She's gove the 800, not the 200 or 100. Rav was so confident in what he said. Anyone who has a rebuttal to what I said should come and offer that rebuttal. Tanan. So the Gemara tries to disprove Rav. It says in the Mishnah, ksuva ve'enima get. He omeres avad giti. The seif of our Mishnah says she produces the ksuva. And she says there was a divorce. They both agree the husband was divorced, right? But she doesn't have the get. He omeres avad giti. She says, I lost my get, so I don't have a get. Ho omer avad shovri. He says, no, right? I paid you your ksuva, and I had a receipt, I lost it. He produces a shtarchov. He doesn't have a prusbal, and he says, where's your prusbal? They don't get paid. He doesn't have prusbal. She doesn't have the get. According to Shmuel, the sefer makes sense. It's talking about a case where a place where they don't write a ksuba. He says, I wrote a ksuba. You have to bring the proof. The burden of proof for you that there's a ksuba. He doesn't bring a raya. Then you have to pay. El Laram, he the Iker lo Gabia, Tosefes mi atikbi. Why does the Sefer say she produces the ksuva, she doesn't collect, right, the Tosefes, right? Makes sense. So according to Rav, you don't collect the Iker, the $200 for the psula. However, Tosefes, he said before, whether it's a place they write or don't write, we don't have a problem because when she produces the get, she gets the mana masayim. When she does the Tosefes, she doesn't get the mana masayim, she gets the Tosefes. So together, she gets everything. Amar of Yosef, how come my askina? What are we talking in the Seifa? Kshein Sham Ede Gerushin. Where the Seifa, she says, right, I was divorced, I have the ksuva, I don't have the get. So there was no Ede Gerushin. There was not even witnesses that the Gerushin happened. Migo Diachal Meimar, because the husband has a Migo. He could say, Lo Gerashtia. He can deny there was a Gerushin, right? They're still married according. He could technically say they're still married. I don't know anything. Yachal Meimar Gerashtia Benatati Laksuvasa. Therefore, he also could say, since there's no get over here and there's no Ede Gerushin, so therefore he's believed to say, when he says, I divorced her and I gave her a ksuva, he's believed in that case. So the Gemara says, that's what the Seifa is talking about. The Gemara says, Hamadani Seifa, however, the Gemara challenges that. The top of page 10 of Beis, the Seifa says, Rishim L'omer, Minas, Sakhan of Eilach, he shall go Ksuvasa Shalom Beget, or Balchov Shalom Prusbal. Right, about Rishim L'omer says it made a takana nowadays, or in the time of a sakana, where you couldn't hold on to Jewish documents. She can collect without a ksuba, without a prosbal. The Ika Ede Gerushin Askinan must be talking about the Seva Star. Shimon was talking about where there are Ede Gerushin. The Ika Ede Gerushin, but my Gabio. Right? You don't have the get. So how you collect must be we're talking about this Mishnah talking about where there are Ede Gerushin. That's how she's able to prove there was a Gerushin. Ella, so the Gemara retracts Kula Rishon Galil here. The entire Mishnah is Rishon Galil. The Chasuri Mechsra, according to Rav, this is what you have to say. Yifru. In the following cases where she says she got divorced and she only produces a ksuva, or the balchov doesn't have a prusbal, you don't get paid by medron when there were an Ede Gerushin. Like Rav says, if there are Ede Gerushin, there were witnesses that saw there was a Gerushin, so she collects Tosefes, the $800 extra that he added. The Iker, the main part, the $200, the Mifka Gita Gabi, if she produces the get as well, she collects that. Below Mifka Gita Lo Gabi, she doesn't collect. Right, we added all that in. When it became dangerous, Mifka Gita, even if she doesn't produce a get, Gabi Omer, in dangerous times, you can collect even without the get. Amri Lei, Rav Kahana Rav Asi, the Rav Kahani and Rasi still challenge Rav. According to you, that says a get, right? If you produce a get, that is enough to establish that you were divorced, and you get the $200 or $100 that you're promised. A psula, 200, almana 100. Almana mina nesuin. Let's say she was widowed, right? Her husband died. from marriage. They were married. Ramai Gabia, how does she collect? The only way she can collect, there's no get over there. He died. So I guess death certificate is not valid according to the Torah. So the only way you can collect is to prove he died, to a state, and that he died. She owes her money. How do you know that he died? Maybe he was Megarish, or he gave her a get. And then she produces Ede Misa, and then she's going to go to a different court and collect with the get. So the Gemara says, it's talking about, right, she'll collect, will collect when we see that she was living with her husband. We don't assume that he gave her a gerushin. Maybe right before he died, they were living together, but he gave her a get. If he didn't make Adim testimony that he divorced her, right? So it's his fault because they were living together and then he died. Ostensibly, he died. He didn't give her a get. So if he wants to prove that a get was given, he should have put Adim for the gerushin. So the Gemara says, let's say she was widowed after they were engaged. And we learned in the Daf It, she still gets Mano Masayim. Be'edim Misa, she'll collect through Adim that said that he died. Maybe there was a gerushin. Now they're not living together before the erusin, so you can't say Yosheves Tachas Baila. She's going to collect the second time. So the Mark can see in this case, I'm on an erusin. There, if the Eidei Misa come and prove that he died, we would write a shover. We would write a receipt for the husband that he already paid the ksuba. Right? Anytime she dies and Eidei Misa come, she can produce 4 Eidim, 2 Eidim in one basin, and another 2 Eidim in another basin. In a place where there's no other options, anytime he dies, the husband. So therefore, once the first Eidei Misa come, we write a shover, write a receipt for the husband. Even though we don't like to resort to this conclusion that we write a receipt, we don't like to write receipts in halacha. If you like to go to the store and get a receipt from your grocery store, the Gemara frowns upon that. You don't need receipts. We don't like to have receipts because people can lose them very easily. How do you know? A more fundamental question, nothing to do with our Mishnah. How do you know she's entitled to 200 if she's widowed from the erusin? How do you know she's entitled to a ksuva? Minolan. This like ksuva. How do you know she's entitled to a ksuva? From the Mishnah on Daf Nondal and the Salmon is Garsha Beimin Erusin Beimin Nesu and Gobes Akol. Right? She collects everything. Right? According to the Torah Banan. Relative Nazarya only mina Nisuin she gets to Tosefis. Dilma the Kosav law. Maybe it's talking about a case where he wrote a ksuva. If he didn't write a ksuva, and then she's not entitled to anything. If he dies, mina erusin. Look at him, a Kosav law, Maila Memra. If you'll say the Chiddush or Mishnah, he wrote for a ksuva. So Maila Memra, what's the Chiddush? Of course she collects. La Fuke Milad ben Azar. No, it says it is necessary, even if the Chiddush is that he wrote her a ksuva. If he wouldn't have written a ksuva, maybe she doesn't collect. The Chiddush is that even though he wrote a ksuva to tell you the halakha is not like Elazar ben Azari, Damar Shlo Kosav La Ela Menashe Hukonza, even though he wrote it, right? She does not collect the Tosefes unless she gets married. Daikanami Lizane Goves Akol says she collects everything. Yeah, I'm just on the Kosav law. If you'll say the case is talking about where normally it's a place they don't write, and he wrote a ksuva for her. Mishum Haki Goves Akol. That's why he collects everything, including the Tosefes. Well, yeah, I'm rest of the Kosav law. If he didn't write for her, my Goves Akol, Mana Masayim would is. So what does it mean? She collects everything. Hakol sounds like more than just the regular Mana Masayim. Mana Masayim the Isla. Must be talking about the Sefes. So what's the source that Almanim Ne'erzin gets a ksuba? From the Brisa, Rav Chia bar Abin states, Ishta Arusa, if his wife is an Arusa, meaning she's just engaged, and one of them died, Lo Onein V'lo Mitmala, she dies, he doesn't become an Onein on her account. V'lo Mitmala, if he's a Kohen, he doesn't go to the cemetery to bury her. Can he Lo Onein V'lo Mitmala? She also, likewise, does not become an Onein. Only an Onein if you're married to her. Sheira. V'lo Mitmala. She does not go and bury him. She's not Mitzuva in his Kfura. Mesa Eina Yorsha. If she dies, he doesn't inherit her. Mesu go back Suvasa. If he dies, she collects her Ksuva. So she, even Mina Erusin, she collects her Ksuva. Dilma, the Kostala. So where it challenges that again, maybe it's talking about we actually physically wrote a Ksuva for her. And if he didn't write a ksuva, she wouldn't be entitled to it. What's the chiddush? Of course, you write anything a loan document has the status of a loan document. He owes her $200. Of course she'd collect my memra. Mesa and a yorsha, it's tzrichale. No, the chiddush is we're talking about if she dies, he doesn't inherit her, right? Because we don't know. It's not so clear to us that the Yarashosa is only in a Nesuah, and only is Yarash from a Nesuah, not an Erison. Amalei Rav Nachman the Rav Huna the Rav. So Gemara still hasn't really proven that she gets it if he doesn't write a Kesuba, but we will prove that from the Shita of Rav and Enoch ben Sion that she is entitled to it. That's really, even though the Gemara doesn't really give an answer, but it's inferred from the Shita of Rav. We pass like Rav, not Shmuel, on Amud Aleph. I'll explain how we have a proof that Alman ben Erison is entitled to her Kesuba. So the Gemara says, Amalei Rav Nachman the Rav Huna the Rav Amar get go be'ikar. Back to Rav. Rav says if she produces the get, she gets the ikar, the 100 or the 200. Leichash dilam mifka gita b'hai beidina v'gabya. Maybe she'll produce the get in this space and collect. V'hadr mifka beidina achrina v'gabya. We don't take the get away from her. She needs the get, right, to remarry, and then she'll take it to a different base and collect the second time. If you tell me the karina life, tell me she'll rip it up after she collects the first time. Amra b'yina and sui base. She says no, you can't rip it up. I need it to get remarried to have proof that I'm divorced, right? An Ashish Ish can't be remarried unless she has a get. So Gemara says the Karina lev kasvina nagabe gita dinan. We rip it partially and we write on top of it this get karunu la. We ripped it up. La mishum de gita pasla. We didn't rip it because it's a pasal yet. Ella, it's really a kosher get. The reason we partially ripped it up is to tell you that it was used to collect the ksuba already, and if she produces it in a different base, then she can't collect the ksuba again from it. However, she could use it as a valid proof that it is a good get, which the Dayanim clearly state on the back of this get. That's the conclusion of today's shir. Stay tuned for Enoch ben Sion. We're going to talk more. The Gemara doesn't give an answer. Amon Ne'erison, how do you know she's entitled to Mano Masayim? Is there an answer to the question? Maybe, what is the Machlokes Rav and Shmuel? Based on the Machlokes explanation of Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, we have an answer to a question the Gemara leaves unanswered. Stay tuned for Enoch ben Sion coming up next.